Okay, so I've got all the Schnauzer pieces cut out on all the solid lines. I've got all of the dotted lines transferred to the front of the fabric. So I'm going to show you an example of how to layer it when we've done that transfer. But I also have for every one of the dogs, I've got just a video showing how I do this without doing that marking, but using a light box. So it'll show all the layers going on. Using the light box just makes things so easy. But if you don't have a light box or don't want to use a light box, I wanted to do one video that shows you how to do this with the markings. So the process is going to be the same for all of the dogs, but I'm just going to show you with the Schnauzer. So the first piece I always lay down is the shoulder piece that goes off the bottom of the block. So I'm going to line that up so that the straight edge, the cut edge at the bottom of his shoulders are lined up with the raw edge at the bottom of the block. And that's going to make it look like he is, like you've taken a photo of him. You can also do any of the dogs without the shoulder piece and just do the face piece, in which case you can float it anywhere in the block that you want to. But I want to show you how to do it to make it look like you've snapped a photo of this guy. So put the body down. Now we have a line that we can follow to put his little chin piece in there. We're going to just figure out where, there he goes, where that lines up. And once I've covered, I'm going to just barely cover up that chalk line that I drew. So now we have his head that is going to go underneath his muzzle there. And we're just going to tuck that under until this line is covered. There we go. Now, this has got his head tipped at a very particular angle. If you don't want to do that, you absolutely don't have to. You have excess fabric underneath all of these pieces, and that allows you to play with it a little bit if you want to make him tip to the other side, or if you want to really turn his head sideways like he's really quizzical, you can totally do that. So the ears are a little complicated because they tuck underneath the head and then they have a little flap going over the front. So this is the back part of the ear and this is the front part. And to get it to look like this ear part has flopped over the back, you want to make sure that you're going to line this tip up with this curve. So this all looks like one continuous curve. So the way we do that is we're going to pop this behind his head. And this is the line that's showing the curve of the ear here. So, and that's going to cover this piece and also cover a little bit of the head. So we're going to make that be one continuous line when I line them up. And now we can put this little flap over it. And there you go. And again, you've got a little extra room on the piece that goes behind it. So if your particular Schnauzer has his ears lifting up more before they flop over, you've got some room, some wiggle room that you can play with. But if you want it to look exactly like the one in the sample, that's what these transferred lines are for. So again, this is the line for the flap of the ear that flops over, and so is that little bit there. So we want those to line up. And this is the line that's indicating where it tucks under the head. There we go. And now we've got this piece. And just like on the other one, we really want that to kind of look continuous so that that looks like that's folded over there. So let's get in his nose and his eyes. There's his nose. And he's got two eyes. And on these, I just draw a circle within the dotted line so that I don't have to be super precise about my positioning. And then he's got these shaggy Schnauzer eyebrows. and I've just drawn just a loose shape. I didn't bother drawing in every little point there because I don't want to have to erase any lines. And if I don't get it covered completely, I would have to erase. So this allows me to cover them completely. And you can also play a little bit. The eyebrows make them really, really expressive. So don't hesitate. Like, you can make him look a little grumpy by putting those eyebrows down more in the center. You can make him look a little sleepy by having the eyebrows just cover the tops of the eyes a little bit. But in my drawing, I had them right above the eyes. So that's what I'm going to do here. There you go. Now I'm going to take him over to the ironing board. I'm going to fuse all of these in place. Just follow the directions for whatever brand of fusible you're using. And then I'm going to take him to the sewing machine and do all of the outline stitching. And then I'll come back and show you the finished block. Okay, here's the finished block, all outlined. You can see I decided to put them on a red background instead of on the green background that you saw in the earlier video. I just wanted to point out one thing, and that is on these pattern pieces, I just forgot to mention this earlier, on these pattern pieces, you can see that there is a lot of excess. So for example, here's the shoulder piece, and this is showing where this muzzle piece is going to overlap it. And there's a lot of excess here. And here on the bottom half of the face where the muzzle is going to sit over that, you've got a lot of excess. I did that for, I usually would trim all of that away, but for this particular pattern, all of the different dogs, you're going to be able to mix and match the parts to create breeds of dog that I did not include in the pattern. So for example, you might use this head for a lot of different dogs, in which case you would need the whole bottom of the head there. So I didn't want to cut it away on this piece and limit the usefulness of it. But if you know that you are making this schnauzer, you can cut away any of these large pieces of excess that you can see where the dotted lines are. Just make sure you leave yourself about 1/4 of an inch. So don't cut away all the way up to that dotted line. Leave yourself about 1/4 of an inch overhang so that you've got some room for the pieces to overlap and have a good strong fuse. But that does, I pointed out in the video that that allows you to like tip the head different directions and things like that, but it also allows you to make different dogs with the same pieces. Same thing with the ears. You could cut away some of this excess that's just going to get tucked under the head, but by having it be a full ear, for example, if your schnauzer's ears don't flop so far over on his head, maybe he tends to prick his ears, has more of the standing up part and less of the flop over part, you could take these ear pieces, the behind piece, and have them come up further out of the head and have much less overlap underneath. But if you're going to make it exactly laid out like the sample block that I did, you can absolutely cut away that excess. It's going to make your finished block a little less stiff and also save you some fabric. So it's going to feel stiff when you've got a lot of overlap there, but once it goes through a wash or two, it softens up quite a bit. So that is how you put together the Schnauzer block without using a light box. There are videos for every one of the dogs that use a light box. I show the light box video for all of the different dogs, but the process is the same. And the process for if you're not using the light box is the same. You're lining up all of those markings just like you saw me do on the Schnauzer.